Hi, Austin. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. How are you doing, Mariana?
I'm doing great on my last week of on my current job. So it's like the whole figuring
Mm.
things out. And
Yes, it's so exciting. I mean, happy to be here, and I mean, I'm so excited for you as well.
yeah, and I'm super happy to be speaking with you because I've been following you for a long time now. And I think you were the first person I looked up as like this LinkedIn master, like, oh, this guy
Oh,
knows so much about LinkedIn. And then I've seen that you also did so many reviews, like free reviews, like almost 900 or
hmm.
more than 900 or something. And I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
mean,
crazy.
that's saying a lot. I appreciate that, especially now that you are a LinkedIn master yourself. So, no, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say that about myself. And but it's like I see. So you started with LinkedIn. And I've seen a post that you said that you didn't want to go into business before. You wanted to
Mm.
be, how do you say, ornithologist.
Yes, ornithologist.
Yeah.
I always wanted to study birds. I loved birds for the longest time, and I considered myself an introvert for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time. So I was like, I don't like talking to people. And then, yeah, just so I started college as a zoology major. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I guess just some jobs that I had experiences kind of made me realize, like, I actually like talking to people. And then, but I didn't know what I wanted to go into. But so I'm glad that I came across LinkedIn, the platform, because I fell in love with LinkedIn, and I'm like, I want to work at LinkedIn. I don't care if I'm a janitor scrubbing floors or doing whatever. I just want to work with the company. And then, fast forward, I'm here now, and I'm loving every second of it.
Oh, that's super cool. So it was actually the platform that led you to want to work for LinkedIn. And you currently do the BLP program, which I
Yes.
know they have like four rotations, and you're like what,
Hmm.
on the second or the first?
Yes, that's
No.
that's correct. So they have
Uh-huh.
it's BLP rotation, and there's currently four rotations, and I'm doing the media, which is like the digital marketing pathway at BLP. And so
Okay.
it's pretty new. It's as of January this year that they started that. So I'm in the second cohort of the new rotations.
Cool. And tell me about like your journey starting out with LinkedIn, like with the platform. All I know is
Yeah.
that someone told you create a profile, and then what happened from there, from creating a profile to optimizing to like helping so many people with it.
Yeah,
Like,
it
tell
was
me.
my freshman year, like a upperclassman that I looked up to. He was in the business
Mhm.
school, and I was like getting advice, and I was like, what should I do to get into business? And he told me a lot of things, and then said like, oh, create a LinkedIn profile and post, like, people like it when you post content every once in a while. And so
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what LinkedIn was, created the profile, and then I used it for like a week, and then I was like, this isn't doing me anything, or where's the job offers coming? Nothing's coming to
Mhm.
me. So I quit, didn't use it for like 2 years. And then before my junior year started, I was looking for a job, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I got to use LinkedIn. And literally every single company that I applied for asked for my LinkedIn profile instead of my resume. And I was like,
Oh.
wait, what? Like, what is this? I was like, my LinkedIn is awful. Like, it looks so bad compared
Uh-huh.
to my resume, which I felt confident in. And so that's kind of what sparked me using LinkedIn. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, I got to start using this more. And then since then, I mean, I spent hundreds of hours watching videos, talking to people on the platform, optimizing my profile. And then that led to so many job opportunities, speaking gigs, and just it opened so many doors. And that's why I was like, wow, I want to work at LinkedIn, because
Mhm.
before I saw this as like a roadblock, in my job search, but now it's a stepping stone to so many new opportunities that most college students don't know about, or they don't know how to
Mhm.
use it. So that's how I started posting content on LinkedIn, kind of geared towards college students, how to build LinkedIn.
Yeah, so I think that's very interesting. So you kind of built on the thing, and I don't think I personally I didn't start using LinkedIn because of jobs, because I don't know if it's
Mm,
a difference in like the jobs you apply to or the regions or where is it. But usually I never ask for my LinkedIn. But in my
Oh,
mind,
yeah.
yeah, like in my mind, people would go and search for it. It's like this
Hmm.
background search where they go and search for your LinkedIn, for your Instagram, and for just your overall like digital presence. I'm like, this is my landing page. I need to
Yeah.
make it pretty, make it like bit
Yeah.
related to myself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think you're so right. Like, even if it's not directly asked in the application, it is a
Mhm.
landing page for yourself that people will look at.
Yeah, and I've seen as well that you received a lot of job like offers or just interviews and things like this. So
Hmm.
do you get a lot of recruiters getting into like your inbox and be like, "Hey, Austin,
Yeah.
what about this opportunity? Would you like to interview for
Yeah.
it?"
It's true. Yeah. That's when I realized
Hmm.
how powerful LinkedIn is before I was like, I got rejected by 100% of the companies I applied to. And then now
Hmm.
I was getting recruiters coming to me, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, in my sleep, recruiters are coming to me and asking if I want to work at their company. And so, yeah, it's a lot of it was from the SEO side of the profile, like optimizing that, and then a lot
Hmm.
from content creation, kind of going out and being put on their feed. So my profile gets seen in, like, they see my profile and then click on it and then become interested, type thing. So it's kind of a mixture of optimization, content creation, and just being at the right place at the right time for a lot of places.
Yeah, I believe that as well because I'm seeing the same thing happening. And
Amazing.
so, so you divide it in like three tiers, and you're like, okay, optimization of profile, content creation, that being the right place, and clear like obvious networking and
Hmm.
everything that comes with that. So, how would you say we students optimize their profile for SEO purposes? Like some things that pop in your mind, other than just do put a cover picture, put a photo. What are like
Yeah.
some inner tips that you think people don't know about?
Yeah, I'd say, like, as far as SEO goes on the profile, there's like
Mm-hmm.
4 sections that I tell people to focus on a lot. One is the headline. Most students are like student at Brigham Young University.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like my default, or BLP at LinkedIn. Just my job title. But if you're, I guess it's different if you're in the job search, which most students are. They're looking for
Mm-hmm.
internships and full time offers. And so what I say is look up 5 to 10 job descriptions of roles that you're interested in. And literally these days, almost every single job description has at the bottom requirements of skills that you should know, what you should do. If it's
Mm-hmm.
sales, they might be like, oh, you should know Salesforce, business development, cold calling, prospecting, etc. And I'd say if 60 to 70% of those job descriptions have similar skills, then that is something that you should have on your profile. If you don't know it, get LinkedIn Learning, watch some LinkedIn Learning courses about Salesforce, start reading articles to a point where you can at least do beginner to intermediate tasks, and then you can include that in your headline. Have like keywords in your headline, and then
Mm-hmm.
also in your about section at the bottom you can add skills to kind of, this is for a few things. One, for SEO, but also if a recruiter is looking at your profile and then
Mm-hmm.
they click on the about section, you're telling them right there a lot of the skills that you're good at, so they don't have to spend 5 minutes on your profile looking to see if you qualify for their job description. It's kind of a courtesy way of, hey, look it, right here in 10 seconds you can see if I'm a good fit for your role by all of these like all of these skills that I have. And then, so those are 2 sections. The others, the job
Mm-hmm.
experience section, filling out good keywords there. Most I guess most people that I see, they just have one bullet point or no bullet points at all. So
Yeah.
write a paragraph, talk about your experiences, talk about the skills you learned in your role. And then the last is that skills section at the very bottom. Most
Mm-hmm.
people, I'd say, have 5 to 10, and it's almost always Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, leadership. You know, include hard skills that you've developed: Salesforce, business development, sales,
Mm-hmm.
cold calling, kind of what I said, or SEO, digital marketing, etc. Things that are hard skills that show that you could be qualified for the role. So
Okay.
to summarize, headline, about section, work section, and skills section are kind of the 4 sections that I tell students to focus on for SEO.
Okay, so if you repeat the keywords, they're gonna help you rank higher, right? So if you repeat them everywhere, like
yes.
all the sections that you said, then you're gonna
Yes.
rank for those keywords.
Yes.
Okay.
So from what I've
Yeah.
seen, it's if you're a marketer and you have digital marketing or SEO in your job title, in your headline, in your about section, and in your skills section, then you'll appear higher because they're like, wow, they mention it 4 times in different profiles sections.
Yeah.
They must be good at SEO, or they must have a day-to-day job that involves SEO. So yeah, you'll appear higher.
Yeah, I think in a way, when you say it, it's kind of intuitive as well. Because you're like, just repeat the same word and you're gonna rank higher for that word, right?
Yeah.
But I also think like a lot of there's like 2 things. Like I just want to add and see what you think, because 2 things I see is like sometimes people work for companies that don't have a LinkedIn page, or I like sub companies or something like that. So you get that gray kind of icon, and then they don't add bullet points, or if they just add bullet points and you don't know what the company is about, then it can also like disperse. Because if you just look at that, it's like a great thing and it says I did 5 cold reads, and you're like, okay, but what is the company about? So
Yes.
I would just add that it's important, like sometimes explain like what your goal was or what the company is about, also to try to relate. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, especially if it's a company that people haven't heard about, then they might feel like, oh, I don't want to learn about this experience. But if you tell a paragraph like why it's relevant or what the company does, then they're like, oh, even though I haven't heard about it, it's exactly what type of, I guess, experience that we're looking for. So it's really relevant. So I totally agree with what you mentioned.
Yeah, and then I see something else that it's like some students, because when you're about to finish, either you're like super lost and you just try something, or you already know what you're going into. And when you know what you're going into or what you want to get, like your target field and everything, I think it's easier, because if you say, okay, I want to go into marketing, I think that's simpler, because it's like, okay, then digital marketing, page ads,
Yes.
advertising, everything that goes inside. But if you're a student that just wants to land any kind of internship, like what should that student do?
Yeah, I was in a similar boat because I knew I wanted to do business, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do HR, marketing, recruiting, or sales. And so to be honest, I had done an internship, like smaller experiences, internships, not like a full-time 40-hour a week internship in each of those. So I kind of had my profile as 3 different things of some recruiting experience, some recruiting keywords, some sales, and then some HR, etc. And with that, I'd say if you don't know what you want to do, try and pick you can never go wrong necessarily with some of the more broad skills or topics that you can learn. Instead of like, if you want to go into marketing or digital marketing, you can use more specific keywords like PPC, SEO, things that the lingo that marketers throw around. But if you're not into that world so much, or you don't know it that well, then use more broad terms like marketing, digital marketing, social media marketing. And then also with recruiting, watch videos, learn about the industry. You don't have to necessarily go into prospecting, different tiny aspects of recruiting. You can talk about a few different recruiting skills or why you would be a good fit for that, and just learn about it type skills. And so I'd say you can have 15 to 20 broad skills as opposed to 15 to 20 very niche specific skills that fall into digital marketing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because I was exactly in the same position. And I think I'm kind of like not niching down, but tailoring my profile, because it's like when I finished school, I had all these options of things I thought I would like to do. So I did the same thing. At this point, I had 3 like freelance kind of side projects in
Mm-hmm.
different areas, and it was like from marketing. Then I have in VC. Then I had in like digital marketing. I was like, this is so different. I have no idea what I want to do. I like things from each. So I was kind of picking broader things, and then
Mhm.
as I went and started like realizing what do I like, what I'm better at,
Mhm.
and I think you with time you just tailor things.
Yeah, you start
Uh,
refining it. Mhm.
yeah.
And then so as I went into sales more, I kind of
Hmm.
started replacing those other keywords with more sales related keywords.
Yeah. And I think something very interesting about LinkedIn is that the more you explore like all the different
Mm.
sections and you interact with it, you also learn. And I personally learn a lot as well with other people and going
Mhm.
through their profiles and not just be like passive and be like, okay, this is Austin. Let's see. Okay, cool profile. Now let's go away. No,
Yes.
I would actually go see, for example, you are at BLP. Let's say I want to go into BLP. I'm like, okay, what did you do before?
Mm.
Which kind of journey did he go to, like which keywords does he have, and you
Yeah.
can also see for people and then reach out, because
Yeah,
I think most
that's a
people
really smart
yeah
way to do it, and quite frankly, I don't think many students do that. So that's definitely a approach that I hope people start adopting more, you know.
and like sending the personalized messages,
Mhm.
because I mean, if you tell me why you imagine you are in BLP and I want to go into BLP, right? So if
Yeah.
I just go into a profile, even if I have my visibility on, you'll see, oh, Mariana has seen my profile. Now I send a connection request.
Mhm.
Imagine like you have not that many and you accept me. But then that's as far as it goes, and then our relationship ends there. But if I would send you, hey Austin, I've seen your profile, I've seen that you worked in business development, you are now at BLP. I want to go into BLP and I'm doing these. Like I would love to know more about you.
Mhm.
Then I could also improve myself to like try to tell it. So I think this is also something that
Absolutely. Yeah, I
most people don't
totally
do.
agree. And I'd say maybe 2% of connections that I get are
Hmm.
personalized.
Yeah, same. So
Hmm.
if you let me think. So right now you have all this overview of LinkedIn and job search and the whole journey you've been through. So if you would be Austin right now in freshman year or when you were starting your job search, what would you tell Austin? How do you tell him to start? How would his approach be?
Man, I would say I think one of the biggest things that was the most helpful for me was
Hmm.
not being scared to approach people via and requesting informational interviews. As a freshman, I was like, it's scary. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm literally this, I'm small, I don't have experience. I don't know why people would want to talk to me, give me advice or anything. And then it wasn't
Hmm.
until later my freshman sophomore year that I started reaching out to people, and it took like 2 or 3 yeses to realize that people are willing to talk. And so I wish I'd started that earlier, of reaching out to people and asking them for advice, asking them for their thoughts on career, and then using LinkedIn. I wish I had known how to use the LinkedIn search
Hmm.
bar to find candidates or find professionals that I wanted to talk to, because
Hmm.
back then it was just like anyone and anything that would be willing to talk. I was happy to, but I wish I had that more guided approach of how to find people.
Okay, and so how do you find people?
Yeah, I think one thing is at dream companies that
Hmm.
I want to talk to, LinkedIn. I went to the LinkedIn company page, looked at all their employees, and then found people that graduated from my school, talked to a lot
Hmm.
of people that way. Another is in sales. I'm new to the sales industry, so want to connect to sales professionals, ask them like, all right, in your career, what have you learned? What advice do you have, etc. And so just using that before, it was just like I said, it's like, oh, a professional. All right, you're in engineering. Although, I think it is great that you can
Uh-huh.
learn from cross-functional things. I wasn't
Yeah.
very strategic in my networking approach, but now I feel like
Uh-huh.
it'd be a lot more guided.
Okay, so you would find people in your dream company that have common points with your background.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so like your school, maybe some jobs you did before, some companies you
Hmm.
work for, something like this. Yeah, I
Yes,
think
totally.
those people are also more likely to answer to you and to get back and to be like, oh, we
Hmm.
come from the same school. Let's try to help this kid. I know where he comes from. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. And so when you have those networking calls and like informal conversations, everything, do you structure what you're gonna ask? Do you go through the profile or you just kind of go
Oh
with the
yeah,
flow, and how did it?
um, absolutely. From the profile perspective, kind of go to their
Hmm.
profile, learn what questions or what things I'm curious to ask, and then the way I
Hmm.
kind of structure it is I have 3 or 4 planned questions, things that based off of their profile that I want to ask them, and
Hmm.
then if I were to write it down on a piece of paper, each of those questions would be odd numbers. So question 1, 3,
Hmm.
5, 7 are planned questions. And then I leave the slot afterwards just for a follow up. If I asked you
Hmm.
a question about, oh, what skills would you recommend I develop? And then someone's like, oh, I think that you should learn how to or develop emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
and then the next question, which wasn't a planned question because they could have said anything, it's like, okay, great, in emotional intelligence you mentioned that personal awareness is a key aspect of emotional
Hmm.
intelligence. With that, do you know resources that I could use to develop that aspect of emotional intelligence? So it wasn't a planned question, but it kind of dives into their questions and their answers more. So
Hmm.
every even question was a chance to kind of actively listen and try and dive into their advice even further.
Okay, that's very interesting because I would imagine someone tell me, "Oh, just work on emotional intelligence." I'll be like, "Okay, so how? Like, in which direction?" There's so many
Yeah.
things to it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So another thing I see a lot, and I don't know, maybe now people also reach out to you and they're like, "Hey, Austin, please help me, please mentor me." And sometimes they're like, "Can we have a 5 minutes conversation or 10 minutes conversation?" And I'm like, okay, even if I would be to help you, 5 and 10 minutes are not enough to even like turn on
Mm.
your Zoom, say hello, ask how people are doing. So, what do you think is like an appropriate time to ask uh, for the conversation?
Yeah, first of all, I wish I could help out everyone who does reach out to
Hmm.
me. But it really, if I did even responded to every single question I got, then I wouldn't have enough time to complete my full time work.
Yeah.
It's just like so many outreaches. So I am unfortunately not able to respond to every comment or every
Hmm.
person who sends me an inbox. And so with that, like you said, 5 minutes isn't enough, but also um, when I've done it, I've said 15 minutes, or I just don't
Hmm.
mention a time. And then I ask if I can just ask them some questions. And then if they say yes, then I send them an invite. And I, I'd say, yeah, 90% of the 300 chats that I've had have been
Hmm.
30 minutes long, and they've been fine with that. No one has ever been like, oh, I can't do that. Let's do like 10 minutes instead. So I think a
Uh-huh.
big part of it is just being in the approach, being genuine, but also acknowledging, like, hey, I know you're busy. If you don't have time, then don't worry. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And yeah, like for sure, like I think more people should reach out. But I also think, for example, in your case, you have a big following. So people see that you help people, so they also see
Mm,
that you might be able to help them. And I think what you are already doing, like you're helping so many people, and then you turn their questions into posts so you can help in scale. So I think that's really valuable. And in this case, like I think some professionals, they are also very busy, but at the same
mm,
time they don't have so many people reaching out to them, because like sometimes I have conversations with people and I've had
yeah.
from like some of my dream companies, and sometimes I'm like, well, like this person is amazing, how do they want to speak with me? And then
Hmm.
they're like, oh, thank you so much for reaching out, it was really nice talking. I don't get a lot of messages, so I would like
Mm,
more people to actually reach out. And I'm like,
yeah.
really? Like, yeah.
No, I agree, and that's why whenever I want to work for a position, I don't
Hmm.
reach out to recruiters because they guaranteed have so many messages in their inbox. I usually go for more entry level roles, people, let's say an SDR, most people don't think of like going to the lower people on the ladder, the entry level people, because it's like, oh, I want to talk to the recruiter. But those the entry level people, or people who don't get as many messages, are usually the ones who are more willing to talk because they don't get so many messages.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think they are better to help you out because they have been through the process you are going through right now not so long ago. So they still know how everything goes.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So do you think like it's important when someone wants to optimize the profile to also create content? Because like so many people I know, they're not so fancy of just putting themselves out there. But do you think that's key? And if yes, just to justify, but if not, like how can someone like still stand out without creating content?
Yeah, like I think that's a great call out. I think with that, obviously creating content is the best way to do it. It's super helpful in getting seen, but I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable with doing that. And so if you do create content, great. I think that's the best way to get seen by more people, because LinkedIn's reach is incredible. It's a good way to get your profile in front of many people. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then starting out with commenting is kind of like micro posting. You know, you're sharing your thoughts, you're showing that you know about specific topics without the scariness of, ooh, how many likes or comments is this going to get? Or does it look embarrassing? Or, you know, it's like, I'm worried what people will say. So it's like kind of start testing the grounds, or just commenting. You know, you don't even ever necessarily have to go into posting if you don't want to. I know so many people who got jobs just because they commented on posts a lot. And commenting on digital marketers posts all the time, and being in that circle of digital marketers, people start to think like, oh wow, you must be a digital marketer because you're always talking with digital marketers. And so yeah, I think number one is, if you can post content, great, that will be the best. But a good second option is commenting on content and getting your name out there. And if not, then just, you know, start small and then work your way up.
Yeah, I really like that advice, especially because when I started creating content, and it was around like March or April this year, it was not too long ago. I was scared. I was like having this confidence barrier. Exactly what you're saying. Oh my God, like I'm gonna write, and then people are gonna think this is ridiculous. Like, and you have this spotlight effect that you think everyone's like looking at you. But from my experience, no one cares. Literally, it's like either they love it or they just don't care. You know?
Totally.
So yeah. So in the beginning, I started commenting on people's things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 5 comments every single day. And sometimes some people would reach out to me and be like, oh, I've seen that you commented on these. I really liked your thoughts. And then we would have conversations just because of a comment. So I think
it's
LinkedIn,
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree. And I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
So my last question is, what would your advice be for someone starting out? I know you already said a lot of things, but like one advice, like do these or these mindsets, like something very specific. And what's one rule, if I would give you all the powers in the world right now and you could make one rule that everyone would have to follow, what would the rule be?
Oh, wow. That is 2 great questions. I'd say one advice, you know, not necessarily on a specific action to take, but just from what I've seen from so many students, is to not give up when you don't see results after 1 or 2 weeks. Like I said, I started and then I quit, because LinkedIn, you know, if you're on TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, and you just started, you can build up a following to several thousand, even hundreds of thousands of followers within a month, or like such a short amount of time. Like it's just so quick, where LinkedIn, on the other hand, is very slow. Like it takes a long time. And so if you go into LinkedIn with a mindset of TikTok, any other social media platform, you're going to be disappointed at first, of like, what?
Mhm.
I've had a profile for 2 weeks and I only have 10 connections, or 15 connections. People didn't accept me at
Yeah.
first, so it starts out really slow. Or if you're posting content for the first
Mhm.
time and you got 1 like, it's
Yeah.
normal. That is totally great. That is acceptable. And it's just like, take it as a learning curve,
Mhm.
see what you can learn from it, what you want to improve. And then the rule that I'd say is, it's just, for me, it's so sad to see um how much like people are rude to each other on social media. Of
Mhm.
like, I'd say, before you post or before you like, share rude comments, of like, take a moment and like realize that this is a human being who has their life and is going through their own challenges. And then
Mhm.
most of the time, like, you shouldn't post that, or you shouldn't say that rude comment. Sometimes you just go in comment sections and you just see people like bashing someone, or if someone, it's their first time posting, they're
Mhm.
totally nervous, and then you get a comment that's like, wow, this is trash, like, this is awful, like,
Oh.
what are you doing? And so it's just like so sad. And that would be my rule. It's like, don't don't comment things that tear people down, but rather build people up. So maybe that's a dumb rule, but I think
No.
social
Uh,
etiquette, that it's just what I wish people would do more often.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I don't think it's dumb at all, because I think sometimes people forget that you are a human being behind the screen,
Hmm.
and you are a
Totally.
person. And if you read that, it can destroy you. So,
Hmm.
and if you've seen that person on the street, you wouldn't
You
say
wouldn't
something
say,
that
yeah,
you say
exactly.
online, right?
Yeah, so
So,
maybe talk to people, like, say to others what you would only have the courage to say to them in real life.
yeah, yeah.
And if you're saying that to people in real life, then hopefully you can have like a change of heart as well.
Maybe you need to go and like volunteer and see that there
Exactly.
are people actually like suffering in the world.
Yes, totally.
Cool. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Austin. I hope
Yeah,
LinkedIn goes amazing. I hope your day goes amazing. And I know that we're helping a lot of people. You will continue. And I hope all the tips that you gave today also help a lot of people.
thank
So I
you.
really
Likewise. And
appreciate.
thanks again for having me. And if anyone, wants to connect on LinkedIn, love if you could, Mariana mentioned earlier, of send a personal connection request. Let me know that you listened, watch the video, and I'd love to connect and answer any other questions you might have.
Yeah, and let us know like what you heard, what
Exactly.
you yeah. So cool.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. All right, see you later.
See you.